Hi, welcome to my show where I get to interview wonderful people who have inspiring stories and are really doing a great service for the community. I have with me today Betsy McCabe. Hi, Betsy.
Hi,
How are you?
I'm well, thanks.
And you want to tell people where we met?
We met through the Pachamama Alliance Game Changer Intensive, an online course. So we're now meeting in person for the first time.
Yep. Well, you're from Ann Arbor.
Yes.
I was so happy, by the way. This was not my first time. Pachamama Alliance is an organization that I discovered a couple of years ago. I know it's been, and it was right around the time that I was graduating from Lynn V. Andrews 4-year shamanic school. We were asked, how are we going to take our work into the world? So I was like,
great question.
Yeah, how am I going to do that? And then one day I'm sitting behind my computer writing, and all of a sudden, I don't know what I was pressing. And then the website for Pachamama Alliance came up. And I thought, what is this? And the story was really was with these indigenous people from the Amazon and how they collaborated with these Western couple. They partnered with them to help basically save the earth.
Yes.
That's what it really is. And I thought, I'm interested in this. Then I ended up finding out they offer all these free classes, and you can just based on donation. So I thought, well, who could refuse these courses? And they're just so worth really paying a good amount for, not just because of what you receive, but they are trying to do so much good in the world.
Yes.
So even if you receive this information, which I have for a while now for your own benefit, although my intent is to bring it out into the world. And finally, after taking several Game Changer intensive courses and taking the training for the Awakening the Dreamers Symposium, I am finally this October, through a spiritual and writing retreat that I'm having at Columbia, October 5th to the 7th. I am going to be having the symposium on the third day, and we'll talk about why I chose it as such. I was explaining that to you earlier. But what I first want to do is really, I want to hear your experience, because I'm so happy that I found somebody local from
We're both in Michigan.
Yeah, everybody else, it was people from all over the world, like over
That's
80
right.
countries, and that's very, very impressive. But it was like, I want someone from home, I'm all about community. And then I found you, and I said, can you please, come on the show, and we can talk about Pachamama Alliance together, and can you help me now? Before the interview, I'm like, can you help me with the symposium too? So please tell us how you got introduced to the organization, and why you decided to join. And you've very quickly, it seems like you started volunteering.
Yes, I did.
With it.
I did. Well, I only learned about Pachamama Alliance just about a year ago. So like you, I was pressing different things on the computer. I learned through my local grassroots nonprofit organization where I volunteer in Ann Arbor called the Interfaith Council for Peace and Justice. I've been a volunteer and a member of that organization on and off for 25 years, but I've gotten way more involved in the last 2 or 3 years. There's a part of that group, which is an Earth Care and Climate Change Task Force, and within that task force, one of the members was talking about the Pachamama Alliance, and I just got very interested. I asked her for the reference and material, and I looked it up. I also was impressed with the story. The first step when you learn about Pachamama Alliance is to become familiar with the Awakening the Dreamer Symposium. I ended up doing that one online and watching some amazing videos, some amazing stories. This organization was started in the 1990s, and Awakening the Dreamer has been offered now for over 10 years, since I think 2005. It's offered just recently online, though. Another experience is to do a live experience for maybe a half-day kind of seminar with Awakening the Dreamer Symposium, which I took. I also became trained to facilitate Awakening the Dreamer, and I was able to also find some other Pachamama Alliance folks in the Ann Arbor area, 5 of us together, 6 of us actually, put on the symposium last November. So I'm happy to help you meet those folks.
Okay. Okay, I'm not so jealous anymore. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So it was wonderful to learn of this organization. I had been reading the work of Joanna Macy, and in particular her book called Active Hope. And one of the things that Pachamama, for me, that really struck me about Pachamama is if we're in a point of feeling hopeless and despair, and what can we do with what we're facing in the world today, whether it's climate change, social injustice, more and more feeling of separateness from each other and not recognizing our interconnections, if we're sort of numbing out and shutting down, I think Pachamama helps us really look at that situation and feel those feelings, and then move to the next step of what can we do, of okay, this is really what it is. Now what can I do? It is that point of getting out into the world, as you said earlier.
Yes, and so you don't feel so helpless and alone in the process, and that's what I have enjoyed so much with the calls. We were meeting like on a weekly basis.
Right.
Is it 8 weeks?
Yeah. So after Awakening the Dreamer, through that symposium, one of the questions that asked is, well, where can we go from here? And Pachamama has really developed some wonderful programs. There is an 8-week online course called the Game Changer Intensive, and they're running the 20th one of these now. So there have been 20 of them, 20 times they've run. They happen 4 or 5 times a year. The next one is starting up in June.
Oh, cool.
So the Game Changer Intensive, you and I met last January. I took that Game Changer Intensive, and as the course goes on, as you get into week 4 and week 5 and week 6, you begin to really explore, well, how can I make a difference? And one of the decisions I made is, well, I want to continue to learn more about Pachamama Alliance, and I think I can make a difference by volunteering now with this organization. And so I've become a volunteer small group moderator. Within the whole online course, we're put into small groups of between 8 or 10 or 12 people. And we meet once a week on calls, and that's where you and I met, and a chance really to discuss these course materials and really connect with people all over the world.
Connect with people, yes. And everybody has wonderful ideas, and each one is very unique on how they do their own way of contributing or
Very
whatever
much.
they're receiving from it. And what I noticed over time, because I've been a member for longer,
Right.
although I haven't done
Right.
as much volunteering, but I have seen it grow
Yes.
a lot.
Yes.
So our initial phone calls were just like, I don't remember what it was, but 4 to 6 people. And I know in the last time there was a lot of people on the call, and that's a wonderful thing
true.
to see it grow, because seeing people are more and more interested to help, improve the situation in the earth. It's just something, it's our duty to do something like that. And from what I saw in the story, what attracted me too is, so they were talking about how, the indigenous people, and like, I know, for instance, for shamans, okay, the traditionally shamans are kind of like, they stay in their own place, and if somebody needs help, you go to them, you find them, okay, and that's how you connect, and that's how they help heal. But then the world has changed, and so my understanding is the Western couple had encouraged them to come out, because it's like, okay, we need you to participate and to come out in a different way. And my family and I, we went to Cancun in January 2016. And so I had already been with Pachamama for a while, and I understood the story and appreciated it and all that. And I found something so intriguing that was like, yes, this is going on all over. Well, when we were picking out what we wanted to do, swim with the dolphins, which touristic adventures we wanted to take, there was one that had shaman ceremony involved in it.
Yeah.
And I have, this is a picture with my family and I. This was the first one that we got involved in. Let me see if I can, let me see. Okay. Which one? Nope, this is, well, I don't see the other picture, the one with my family, but, well, this was the second place. So the first one, we had a family, we did different excursions, and then another time also I went with the kids, and they had all these things, fun things available for the kids, and there was this one area where it said that if you want to do a ceremony with a shaman, and I was like, yes, this is something I want to do, and it was just for adults. And I remember this little trail, and it said the Path of Consciousness. That's where the idea to do the retreat from. I just saw that, and at that time I took the picture just because it really touched my heart, just the meaning of it. And this is the path I had to take to go, and this was the ceremony that I experienced, and I walked out of that feeling like, I want to do something here at home that resembles the kind of feeling that I'm feeling from them. But what I was really happy about is that 20 years ago I had gone to Cancun, the same area. I was chaperoning my niece who was doing during spring break. She gathered her friends. I gathered my friend, and we went together. There was nothing available. I mean, the word shaman, I wasn't even aware of what that word is, but there was nothing out there where the shamans participated with the tourists, or you can participate with the locals on this kind of an intimate level. So I was just so happy to see that, and that's what it feels like Pachamama, but they're, of course, on a much bigger scale.
Yeah, one of the things Pachamama Alliance does is it's not really ecotourism, but it's not that at all, really. But there are trips to the Amazon to learn from the indigenous Achuar. Part of what the Achuar, with the dangers to the Amazon, part of the call that was being heard in the 1990s was for Western civilization to really, how can we help? Well, the way we can help is to wake ourselves up. So Pachamama is to tell the story of the trance that we've been in, that we are separate from the world and that we can dominate the world, and that maybe that resources are unlimited, and they're not, and we're all connected.
Because how were we were hurting them in some way,
Very much so. And so how can really the way we can help is I think what the online courses do, what the Awakening the Dreamer Symposium does, is really to present some information to have a better understanding of sort of the story we've been telling ourselves, and what are the possibilities for a new story that we are actually all interconnected, and we can work together, and that we can change the way that we're thinking and behaving and acting in the world.
I love how with the Pachamama Alliance, I think the success for its growth, aside from people's interest and deep desire to want to change the story of what's going on in the world, but it is really about the East meets West, and how when you partner up now with the world being just like one home, the East meets West and working together, what you can accomplish in that way. And I have a video that I would like to show, where people who have been introduced or facilitated the Awakening the Dreamer Symposium, or being a part, how that has changed their lives, what the kind of work they did afterwards. Sometimes people are afraid, thinking that what kind of the economy, what kind of jobs we're going to lose or not. But we're really just changing the story. Nothing is being lost. We're just shifting. So it's just like, when you're single, people, when they're single, they're afraid of losing their freedoms, and they're afraid of what they're going to lose. But they neglect to see what they could gain. And I'm talking about people who want to get married, for instance, but that fear of what they're going to lose stops them from experiencing the whole entire process, right? And then there's the fear of, if I have kids, what I'm going to lose, and then so on. But it's not about losing. You really transform, and there's other opportunities to become a new person. And there's so much to do with what we have, with what God created, that there isn't no reason for fear. It's just kind of putting our energies in different places, and we can still prosper in really beautiful ways from that. And that's why I love this video, because it shows how these people, that's exactly what they did. Yeah, I'm going to show this right here.
The experience I had with Pachamama Alliance in the rainforest absolutely changed my life. And when I showed back up in my industry and my job of building all electric commercial vehicles, I just understood that it fundamentally was critical, right? It was now not an option. It wasn't about trying to make it successful. It was a requirement, because the connectedness of our earth is one, and I experienced that. And when you know that, you have to do things differently.
And at the end of these intensives, we had these questions that we would ask about how would we take it into our world? What action would follow? What would we do? And it took me all the way to the United Nations as a focal point on climate change. And then it led me to being able to bring Oprah Winfrey to the United Nations as well. But I was very, very clear when I embarked on that path that it was due to the Game Changer Intensive.
Awakening the Dreamer filled me with tremendous energy to act. It is what inspired me to create Game Changers 500, which ranks the world's top 4 benefit businesses based on their positive impact, not just on their profits.
It's changed my life so much. I realized, oh my God, I have found what I've searched for my whole life. A sense of purpose, a sense of being connected with other people.
At my first symposium, I envisaged my community here in Maroondah on the eastern side of Melbourne waking up. And now, nearly 10 years later, that's what I'm experiencing. Just like my garden here around me, Maroondah is going green.
So just a few years ago, I was working as a corporate attorney at a big law firm, and somehow, fortunately, I found my way to the Awakening the Dreamer Symposium, and that just catalyzed a huge change in my life. Now I'm a staff attorney at the Law Center to Prevent Gun Violence.
I can't tell you how much we love the Pachamama Alliance curriculum. In our organization, Feel Good, we use it to wake students up to be change makers for life.
I've been involved with the Pachamama Alliance since I was 17 years old, and it's really helped shape my values and who I am as a person. I'm a solar researcher, an environmental and social activist, and I know that my actions make a difference in the world, and a world that works for everyone is possible.
Nebraska Pachamama Alliance is really rocking back here in Omaha. We've been invited to the University of Nebraska of Lincoln and the Omaha Public School System to bring the symposium to elementary, junior high, and high schools. Very exciting time for us.
Pachamama has influenced my life in ways that I could have never expected. From the amazing journey into the rainforest to now becoming an agroforestry volunteer in Senegal with the Peace Corps. Thank you, Pachamama Alliance.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, that's a great clip. I think it's very typical of what I've heard from others in each of the Game Changer intensives where I've been the small group moderator. I just hear lots of affirmation and really a sense of moving to a space of being inspired to engage.
Yeah, I mean, so that is, for me, it's like it reminds me, but why I keep taking the course, why I want to do this, why it was even implanted in my heart to begin with, because I do see that, and that's the wonderful thing about these kind of communities is that, I mean, they're so patient with you, and it's like it's just a home where you can connect with. There's no pressure to do this and do that and this time, but there's a trust.
Yeah.
A trust about the universe that it will just happen. Because right now, here I am after years of, I set my intent. I wanted to participate. I wanted to be part of this community and to continue on their message. But my time is now. And I never felt a rush or any. I've always felt very welcome. It's like, if you want to repeat the course, I'm like, right. That's me, you know.
Well, I just want to affirm you. I think it's wonderful that you, from when we first met in January, February, to hear now that you've taken the step of presenting the Awakening the Dreamer Symposium with this workshop that you're presenting next October. I think I applaud you. I think it's wonderful.
Thank you. And you know what? I got to say something. I think the last the last course I did take did have also an effect on me. And I'll tell you why. I felt ready. I felt with the conversations that were taking place and what I had learned, and I thought, I'm ready now. I don't have to feel like, oh, there's something I need to know. And my hesitation had to do with, you know, my partially because of my schedule, but I really wanted to present it in the way that it deserved.
Yeah.
I really cared how it was brought across. And I think I felt that trusting feeling during our last conversations, listening to everybody. I was repeating the material, and I said, I got this.
You got
I
it.
got it. I'm
Good.
okay now.
Good.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right that it is such a it's a real community. In fact, there's a new part of Pachamama Alliance called the Global Community. So there are just so many ways to connect now, whether it's through Awakening the Dreamer, whether it's taking the Game Changer Intensive, which I really recommend, that 8-week course. But there's also something called the Global Commons, the Global Community. There are monthly webinars. So there's a lot of ways to engage with this organization to begin to learn a whole new part of it, which I think was in the course that you took, is Paul Hawkins' Drawdown. And so there are now classes about really getting into the nitty-gritty of actions that can help hopefully reverse climate change. So the mission and purpose of the Pachamama Alliance, that we have a role in creating the world that we live in, and that we're the mission to have a environmentally sustainable, spiritually fulfilling, and socially just human presence here on the earth. To me, I was drawn because of those three parts of the mission. The social justice piece I had been working with at the Interfaith Council for Peace and Justice, the environmental sustainability piece I've worked with, and to bring in the spiritual fulfillment that this peace and justice starts here within us, and then we bring it out into the world, is so powerful, and Pachamama does it so well.
And so I know that, people can, because this show, aside from serving the Oakland County residents, but it also will be put on social media. And so people who are watching this who are not from Michigan, they can, when you go to Pachamama Alliance, you see a lot of different communities all over the world and how you can connect to them. But specifically with regards to Ann Arbor, and given that it seems like there's quite a bit of activity, what is the way, they can also go to Pachamama Alliance and see that, but do you know of any kind of activity that happens on a regular basis, or is it just people should check into the website?
People should check the website and check their local area. I will say that I've recently connected in Ann Arbor with a group, for instance, the Citizens Climate Lobby. So that's climate change, and the Citizens Climate Lobby probably, and there are probably some other chapters in other parts of Southeast Michigan as well. You probably don't have to go all the way west over to Ann Arbor. As far as the Awakening the Dreamer Symposium, I was trained to deliver the symposium last fall, and really then learned through the Interfaith Council for Peace and Justice. I learned of 4 or 5 others who were already planning to present the symposium. So again, it's a rich, you wouldn't find that on the Pachamama Alliance website, but as far as what's going on in Ann Arbor, I would recommend the ICPJ, the Interfaith Council for Peace and Justice. So that you can look that one up to find out about some of the things going on in Washtenaw County.
Okay, great. That's good to know. So are you planning to do another Game Changer Intensive?
That's a great question.
Or are you retired a little?
So I've been a small group moderator for 3 in a row now, which means that, and actually what's really nice is I bring the group together, but then we really try to build up leadership from within the group, so we do ask for other folks to moderate each of the calls.
That's true, you do
I've done it for 3 times in a row. I think what I've decided to do is to take the course in June not as moderator. I'd like to be in somebody else's group. I'm continuing my work. I am continuing my work with my connection with Pachamama. One of the pieces of my action, one of the things we do, the things that help us stay centered, is I'm a musician, and one of the things I decided to do is really present my music to friends and family and neighbors from my living room. So I'm a classical pianist, and I've been doing house concerts. So that's another way of me bringing community together.
Oh, tell us more about that.
I
know we're and I know I saw that in your bio and everything, but sounds very fascinating.
Well,
tell us more.
To me, it fits in with social justice.
Definitely, it does.
It's what keeps me balanced and brings me joy. And again, again, it's that idea of I find peace and joy within me, and I'm able to share it in the world. So the piece of my musicianship. I'm also a teacher. I've taught piano in my living room for 17 years. I have fewer students now, so I have more time for this performing aspect, and it's just giving me great joy, and that's helping me go out and be involved with Pachamama. Also with the Interfaith Council for Peace and Justice. And recently, I didn't tell you about this one, the Poor People's Campaign, which is another.
What is that about?
The Poor People's Campaign is bringing a group of nonviolent, direct action, moral fusion, direct action in 35 to 40 states between Mother's Day and the middle of June. So be looking for folks coming together, the war on poverty, and coming together in state capitals. So I'm involved with that right now as well.
Oh, wow. That's so cool. And this is all like part of, actually, it's all interconnected.
Yes.
I mean, everything that, and, you know, we only have a few minutes left, and I'm wondering, given that you are so involved in so many things, and obviously you seem to really enjoy it and have somehow the time for it, but what advice would you give to people who, this is sometimes a major issue. Sometimes there's several factors that sometimes keeps people not wanting to get involved. Is sometimes they feel overwhelmed, and most people feel very busy, so this could feels like more of another distraction in their life. And you don't, when it comes to this kind of work, the purpose is not to try to stress people out anymore.
Right.
But for somebody who might be interested but is afraid of the time factor and the overwhelm, what advice would you give somebody like that, given your experience in teaching? And
Yes, great question. Really, kind of what you were saying earlier is do the bits that fit into your life at the moment they fit in. And when at some point it will feel right when it's time to move to the next thing. So I think the advice I would give is just begin to try it out. The Awakening the Dreamer, whether you go for a live in-person half day, they are presented here in Southeast Michigan, not that often, but you can go on the website and you're going to give them a chance next fall. Whether you do it that way or do it through the online course, which is very available, that's just a way of dipping your toe in, I think, and beginning to ask yourself that question of how do I bring what's going on in me, what can I do out in the world, and begin to ask those questions. What small changes can I make in my life now, just to begin to start experimenting with a new story. That would be my advice.
Yes, and what you just said is very perfect. That that is exactly how I started off. I mean, my kids when I started were younger. They're still young, but they were younger. And I take care of my mom, who's in a wheelchair. And for me, I figured, okay, this is available online and through the phone. And so really with that, there was not much of an excuse. And actually, the days that I did feel stressed after I had our weekly talks, I felt so much better, because it felt like, there's other people that are in my boat. And then we were so understanding, and we shared other things. It wasn't just about the organization, but we ended up sharing where we were and how we felt about a lot of different aspects. So it took a lot of stress off of each other. But anyway, thank you so much for coming and talking about Pachamama Alliance, which I believe is it pachamamaalliance.org or .com.
I think that's
but
right.
If it's the only one with that name, so
Yes.
look it up, get involved. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.